Hey guys, what's up? It is week 481. Let's jump right into the reviews, and the first one up is from 1990. This is from MVD Rewind Collection here. It's a 4K, and this is Jean-Claude Van Damme and Death Warrant. Yeah, I've not seen Death Warrant since I was a kid. I remember always digging this one. It's actually directed by Richard Safarian. Oh, it's Deran Safarian, a son of Richard Safarian, did The Vanishing Point. He actually pops up as an actor in Bound in a pretty good performance. Yeah, but this is not his first film. He did like Alien Predators, and I think another one even before this one. But yeah, Death Warrant. So Jean-Claude Van Damme obviously was kind of on like a tear. He's kind of a new action guy on the market and stuff like that. He had done a Black Eagle and Bloodsport, and he had like a certain kind of style of fighting that was more in the Asian kind of expired deal. So this one he comes in, and they offered this eventually to Savarian, and he said he had not even heard of Jean-Claude Van Damme at the time. So he went and rented Bloodsport and got acquainted with the guy. So when this one is kind of an odd one, it came from a script called Dusted, and they definitely made some changes, but so here's the plot. Jean-Claude Van Damme is like a super badass cop, and he stops this killer, this mad slasher serial killer in the very beginning, played by legendary bad guy, goon, Patrick Kilpatrick, the Sandman, who's a really iconic role in this one. And from the very beginning, you think the Sandman is toast after that. He feels really great about it. He ends up going called in by a couple, higher-ups. George Dickerson's in there, and they say, listen, we want you to go undercover in a prison. A bunch of prisoners are dying. We don't know why they're dying. We want you to go undercover as a prisoner without any help. We have Cynthia Gibb here is gonna kind of act as your insider. She'll visit you, but she's gonna play as your wife deal. You know damn well she's gonna fall in love with Jean-Claude Van Damme. That's just the way these movies work. Jean-Claude Van Damme gets in the prison system. There's tons of character actors in here, including the Crazy Carl from Billy Madison and Francis from Stripes, and there's also a bunch of other recognizable faces. Art LaFleur is in here as the head guard, the racist head guard. Art LaFleur, underrated character actor, pops a bit role in the Blob remake, Zone Troopers. He's just in the Trancers films, just a good actor. But Jean-Claude Van Damme kind of befriends this older African-American actor, another character actor, but I'll mispronounce his name. Guy's in a million movies, Robert Gallardi or something like that. I always say his name wrong. It's very bizarre name for me to say, but he's a good actor too. So almost right away he starts to realize something's wrong here. He starts to dig deeper, and he starts to make like kind of friendly alliances with a couple people. There's a couple real mean looking fucking criminals in there. One of which just looks like complete serial, like crazy guy, redneck kind of dude with a mustache. But yeah, so he starts to kind of figure out what the hell's going on. Realizes that people are disappearing, but almost everybody who's dying doesn't really have a history of like drug abuse, and they're not really like real hardened criminals, lifelong criminals. So it appears to be some sort of inside thing. And while Cynthia Gibb realizes this, Jean-Claude Van Damme's working on the inside, Gibb's working on the outside, and they're gonna unveil something that's goes all the way to the top, as these things do. The fight scenes are fun. They're in close quarters a lot of time because it's a prison, but this whole thing leads up to this crazy finale at the very end where somebody from Jean-Claude's past comes back to haunt him, and there's not very many characters to choose from. I'm going to spoil it here. It's the Sandman, and that's probably the most iconic stuff about this movie. Jean-Claude is good in it. The martial arts is fun. The fight scenes are good, but Patrick Kilpatrick runs away with this movie. He's got the weirdest fucking haircut. He's got like his eyebrows are dyed blonde, if I'm not mistaken, and he's just completely fucking unhinged. If anybody's ever seen Patrick Kilpatrick, he pops up in so many movies. He pops up in Class of 1999. He pops up in Eraser, Last Man Standing. He's been, Under Siege 2, Best of the Best 2. He's just one of my favorite personal kind of crazy character actors that pops up in these movies. Toxic Avenger, he's just really good at playing that kind of big mean goon, and this is probably one of his most featured roles and intimidating roles because he plays this serial killer and he's got this voice like this, and he's just great in it. And iconic line, "You can't kill me, Burke. I'm the Sandman." I think anybody that's ever seen this movie has repeated those lines. Even if they walked away hating this movie, they definitely said, "You can't kill me, Burke. I'm the Sandman." And this is an enjoyable one. I don't think I'd put it in top tier for Van Damme. My top tier Van Damme is probably like stuff like, I love Hard Target by John Woo, and I really like Bloodsport, but I do like Death Warrant. I think it's a solid, fun movie. Online with something maybe like Double Impact or something in that line. Maybe not as good as Lionheart. I'm a Lionheart fan myself. But yeah, this is a fun, good movie, and it looked really great in 4K. Sounded pretty solid as well. Has some features on there. The commentary director Deran Safarian. I know I'm saying his name wrong, but it's a decent commentary. It's a little quiet. They also have some interviews too. An interview with Patrick Kilpatrick. That's 9 minutes, and I'm going to tell you, I do not remember seeing that on here, which is a complete bummer because he's one of my all-time favorite actors. I usually rip these things and I listen to the all the special features, and I don't remember seeing this on here. There was definitely an interview with Cynthia Gibb on here. Maybe my brain's just completely fried here. They have an interview with Art LaFleur too. These must be ported over because Art LaFleur's been dead for quite a while. Defender of Death: Memories of Van Damme Classic with Cynthia Gibb. That's 35 minutes. That's quite a long, intense kind of interview. It's a good one too. She talks about working on this movie, working back from TV, working to movies, all that kind of stuff. Her beginning, Van Damme trailer gallery, including Lionheart, Black Eagle, Knockoff, Double Impact, which I believe they put all those out here. But man, I definitely have to double check and scrub this disc here because I do not remember seeing those. I'm not saying they're not there. I'll put a little note in maybe the things that they are, but I really don't remember seeing those on here. But nice release of Death Warrant. And maybe my memory's so fried. It was been a long week at work that I don't remember. But I damn well think I would remember the Patrick Kilpatrick interview. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. But he's great in the movie. And Van Damme is growing up. He was one of my guys. You know what I mean? And I should mention that Patrick Kilpatrick hilariously has been killed by Van Damme, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis, and he's killed in a Steven Seagal movie. Technically, he's killed by Everett McGill, but hey, it is what it is. Under Siege 2, underrated bad guy gang. Great stuff. So yeah, check out Death Warrant. Looks pretty damn good in 4K. Alright, this next one here is from Arrow Video, and this is, I think, the last great Japanese ghost story film that I needed to watch, and this is a huge blind spot for me. I've seen the Ring films, I've seen the One Missed Call films, I've seen Dark Waters and Pulse and Noroi and a slew more of them, but I had never seen Ju-on the Grudge. And the story and the history, I know a little bit about this one, of course. The director, actually, I'm going to mispronounce his name, of course, Takashi, he had made a couple shorts for something and then eventually made these two short TV films, Ju-on the Curse and Ju-on the Curse 2, I believe, and then eventually got the financing to make a feature-length film, and he decided to make kind of an adaptation of that, and then he made a sequel, and he had the American remake that Sam Raimi was behind. So The Grudge is one of the biggest, most, I guess, intricate franchises of the Japanese ghost stories, along with The Ring and stuff like that. But yeah, so diving into this, I knew that it would be good. I like The Ring a lot. I like Pulse a lot. Pulse took a couple watches. I love Noroi. Noroi is my movie. And I'm sitting back and thinking about this, and I enjoyed the movie a lot. When you watch it, it's not told in a linear structure. And I kind of dig that, and it adds more little bit elements to the mystery, because most of these ghost stories, which I find the most intriguing, have a little bit of mystery to it. But the story is technically, the story is straightforward, right? It's kind of your haunted house story, but the way they break this up into its structure, it makes it kind of a nice mystery of it, to where these characters got to and how that happened and all that stuff like that. It's told in, I think, 5 or 6 vignettes where they open with characters, and it's like part, 4, then it does 1, 2, similar to something like the Strange Darling or Pulp Fiction or a million other movies that are told out of order, not necessarily completely backwards like Irreversible, but there's a lot of movies that are not told in order, and people tend to use the same 5 or 6. But this one here, I think, does it incredibly effectively, to the point even if you're watching it the first time, you're like, wait, what the fuck is happening? And it adds a lot to how the confusion and weirdness of how the ghost stuff actually works. I must admit, I enjoyed this movie quite a bit, but then on rewatch, I put on the commentary with David Callett, who does the commentary for a lot of the Eureka adventure films with the Westerns, and he does commentaries on the CCC box set and the Creamy box set and the Babuza sets and all that kind of stuff like that. And this guy is one of the best commentators I've ever heard, and I actually would put this down on this Ju-on Grudge commentary as one of the best commentaries I've ever heard from anybody. David Callett goes through the history, and he wrote a book on Japanese horror films, and I was incredibly impressed with this commentary. And he starts off saying, a lot of people would say Ju-on's just a simple ripoff of The Ring, but no, it's not. He presents his argument, and he goes through the entire history talking of these films and how they got made, and adds tons of context to this, which makes it even more interesting, because these all guys came from a whole TV series in 95 working on this thing called The Haunted School, and haunted toilet stories, all this kind of stuff like that goes over the history, and he points out the similarities, the editors being the same on a lot of these movies, including Noroi and the Ring and Ju-on and all this stuff like this. But then he breaks all this stuff down and he uses other kind of examples, and it was just one of the finest commentaries put on a movie like this. And I was like, oh, this movie is even probably better than I gave it credit for. Also, another thing that I really like about these movies is a lot of Japanese movies have a similar look to them. They have maybe like a, I don't want to say a bluish greenish tint because it's not a look I really particularly like all the time, but when the Japanese films do it, I tend to really like it. Like Angel Dust does it, and I think it looks pretty damn good in that one, and I think The Ring has that kind of feeling too. But when we're talking about Ju-on, it is very, very lit, very much a daytime movie, horror in daytime. And I realized how much more I like that. When you watch something like I Spit on Your Grave, it happens in broad daylight, or Day of the Dead. I tend, even though half that movie's in a fucking military bunker, but I like horror in broad daylight. I feel like it feels more realistic to me because a lot of the worst things ever just happened. The weather doesn't move to horrible acts, right? The weather does not pay attention to what's happening in the lives of people, right? And so it's so silly that everybody's like, it's gotta be dark to set the atmosphere. It's like, sometimes I like it in broad daylight. I like it nice out. And The Grudge does that perfectly. So essentially the plot is anybody, there's been a tragic murder of a woman and boy in this house, and you get it through snippets and story being told. And anybody that goes in the house is cursed. And it's not like anybody that just goes in the house dies. It's a haunted house, but the ghost also attaches itself to you, similar to a lot of Asian films of anything like that. Even American films, I think, have picked up that more and kind of carried it with It Follows and other things like that. You know, the person is possessed, or there's a ghost attached to them. And I feel like this is more done in proper Asian films and things of that nature from the past, even Chinese or Japanese or Korean stories. I've seen that happen a lot. But that tends to what happened here, and it's basically a chain. It's a chain. And if you get caught in the chain, or you're by somebody who's been to the house or are related to it, you die. And so many people do die, and so many people get drugged back into this case, and it's really kind of depressing and tragic. And the end reminds me of Pulse opening up and just seeing those bleak streets and everything like that. And David Gallant has suggested, this thing could go to the very top, wipe out an entire city. But just a really effective, creepy movie. And how could I not mention the sound effect that the ghost makes? Kadako makes the it's freaking terrifying, and it's simple, but it works really well. A slow-paced, but all the scares are beautifully designed, and just a great commentary to kind of put the context on this. And he does, I have to laugh because David Gallant makes fun of Koji Shiriyashi at the very end, and basically making a ripoff of this movie and talking about, I know a ripoff when I see when there's so many great movies that are similar but aren't ripoffs, but this one is a ripoff. And Koji Shiriyashi's made some of my favorite movies, but this movie I have not seen. It does sound generally like a ripoff. I mean, I love Occult and is it Cult or Occult? One of the two, and A Record of Sweet Murder and No Roy, all great films. But a lot of great directors do make ripoffs sometimes. But this looked fantastic too. It's got a bright, vivid look to it, which I also enjoy, and I like the structure being cut up like that. I think the first time watching, you may be like, "What is happening?" And the second time, I think you'll pick it up right away, and I think you'll really enjoy it. As far as the features are concerned, we have, of course, the commentary by historian David Gallant, and then we have a archival commentary by Sam Raimi and Scott Spiegel. R.I.P. Scott Spiegel. Alternate English dub track, 5.1 surround. I can't imagine watching this in English. Haunting and Monochrome, an interview with Takashi Shimizu, which is a new interview on Ju-on films, which is pretty good. And he mentions the shorts and the short films and the shorts. Being Kayako, an interview with Takako Fuji on a role as Kayako. Doesn't seem to hold like incredible ownership of the role. Other people have played it and they laugh about it and get together and they're happy. She talks about people cosplaying, enjoys that as well. The Evolution of Ju-on, a featurette with authors Japanese specialist Tom Mez and Zach Davidson discussing the cultural forces that shaped the series. This also goes great with the commentary because they talk about the shorts and how this came out, all that kind of stuff like that. Through a Glass Darkly, an archival interview with the director. Whispers in Dark interview, archival interview with Megumi Okina on her role as Rika. That's the kind of Rika, the main character. Fade to Black, an archival interview with actor Kayako Sabata, who plays Mariko. On set interviews with the director, lead actress, Mizaki Ito, Miza Uhara, and Yuchi Ikakawa. Deleted scenes with commentary by the director. Almost an hour behind the scenes footage. Ju-on True Stories two ghostly true life tales that inspired the films narrated by Kirahara. Original trailers, image gallery collector's booklet featuring writings on the film by Grady Hendrix, Jason Moorhead, William Carroll, Lindsay Nelson. Reversible sleeve featuring original newly commissioned artwork by Dare Creative. I will say that the Sam Raimi and Scott Spiegel commentary is not like the best commentary in the world, but they do show a lot of love for The Grudge, and you can tell they're very excited, at least Raimi, to being a part of the American remake, directed by the same director. But great release. Glad to see a stateside release on 4K of The Grudge. There is a UK box set, I believe, that has the first film in 4K, and then part 2 and the 2 feature films, shorts that were made for like video store and TV on there as well. Those 2 in standard def, and I think the second Grudge in Blu-ray. So yeah, that set is out there as well. Okay, this next one here is from Radiance Films, and this is from 1977 from Toei, and this is The Boxer. So I had not really heard of this film, but I do know its lead actor here, Bunta Sugawara, who pops up in so many Yakuza films. He's got a very memorable look to him, and there's a great, interesting special feature on here that says basically by Tom Mez, and it's a little video essay that says the year that Toei failed in 1977. Their movies did not do great in the box office, not all of them, but he goes into deep context about it, and seeing The Boxer here was a movie that it doesn't have great reviews on Letterboxd, but I thought it was a perfectly good film. I like boxing films, especially I feel like boxing films are a little bit more gritty or hard-hitting than a lot of other sports films, and in particular something like Raging Bull and this one. So this opens up, and Bunta Sugawara is this kind of like real big loser. He has a Doberman Pinscher, and he kind of just lives in this rundown apartment, and what he does is he goes around and he paints up posters on side of buildings for upcoming boxing fights and things of that nature, and he's just a complete washed up whatever. You don't really know much about the guy. At the same time, we're introduced to another character who has just been left by this woman. They kind of work on this construction site. She works as a secretary, and he goes out and he's lifting these kind of things in this kind of crane, and he completely screws up, and he ends up dropping this stuff on his ex-girlfriend's new lover, which looks horrible, right? That happens to be Bunta Sugawara's brother. So you think that they're going to set up this huge like feud with them, but it's kind of these two losers who are kind of at their complete end, and almost form this friendship in a certain way. It's not a friendship, it's a necessity, because Bunta Sugawara is basically on his last leg. He's just drinking himself to death and just doesn't really seem to want to be alive at all. He lives for his dog, and this guy comes in, and he's a boxer that's not particularly good at all, and he's got a bad foot, and he begs Bunta to train him. And they start to form this friendship, of course, between mentor and trainer, and that's pretty much the movie. There's a lot of training montages. There's lots of great shots of rundown kind of back streets and things of that nature, and he gets him to build himself up, and it's going to lead to this kind of King Jr. fight, and whoever wins this gets kind of crowned to that deal. And of course, these things are going to come to fruition and everything like that. And by Bunta helping this guy, he definitely is kind of saving a piece of his soul as well. There's some pretty interesting stuff involving his wife as well that's kind of really tragic and everything like that. And there's definitely these elements where they'll cut to and they'll mention all these boxers that died of tragic kind of violent deaths, suggesting that the boxing life is a hard-hitting life, physically, mentally, emotionally, and it takes its toll on these guys that, sometimes they are in a certain point in their life and they just don't know why they do something. And I think that could be something with like head trauma, whatever, CTE, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, interesting film. And the ending is definitely more in line with something I would say art film like, and it's not going to compete with something like Raging Bull, although that it's a great movie. This is before it. I think that the movie coming in black and white and fading to color and then kind of fading back in black and white at the ending, I think it does that if I'm not forgetting. But yeah, interesting one here, and I enjoy it. It's good stuff. I would recommend this one. If you've never seen this film, check it out. It does have an interview as well with it's the interview with J.L. Caesar, which I think is the writer on this. I'm always so bad about this interview. Featuring new writing. Interview with composer J.A. Caesar. Sorry about that. But yeah, check this one out. Good stuff. Okay, the next one here is from Unearthed Films, and this is by Shinya Tsukamoto, who is a director I've probably seen 12 to 15 of his films, and I love most of them, in particular Tetsuo the Iron Man, and Haruku the Goblin, and The Snake of June, and just lots of good stuff. But here, Tetsuo the Bullet Man, this is the third in the series. Now, this came way later. The first film was 89, the second one I think 92, and this third one was 2009. Shinya Tsukamoto had always wanted to make kind of an American-style Tetsuo, and there's on the commentary, Tom Mez talks about basically getting together with, like, having talks with Tarantino, having talks with bigger studios to make a third Tetsuo. Now, the Tetsuo movies are completely wild, especially the first Tetsuo is unlike anything I've ever quite seen, and it took a couple of views to truly appreciate it, and I quite love it. You know, that whole idea of man turning into machine, kind of cyberpunk stuff, loud, industrial style music. There's nothing quite like Shinya Tsukamoto's movies, and he can do a lot of different things. I mean, Haruka the Goblin is nothing like that. It's more like a Sam Raimi, Peter Jackson style fun horror film. But when you're talking about Tetsuo, it's definitely this kind of transgressive, gritty, industrial kind of man into metal, wacky, fucked up love story. And Body Hammer is another kind of bizarre story as well. I don't remember that one quite as well. So I was definitely interested in checking out the third Tetsuo movie. It was one that I had not seen. And this is kind of odd because the time in 2009, it's not the color palette. I mean, the Tetsuo movies, the first one is in black and white and it has like a lot of grain and stuff, and it works perfect for that. Probably shot on 16 millimeter if I'm not mistaken, maybe even probably 16. But it's been years. The second one is also kind of a gritty, if I remember correctly, but in color. And this one has like a drained color palette for sure. And then 2009, it's not definitely a time when I loved how movies look, to be honest, and they're still doing it to this very day, and it's not something I love. But it has a drained color palette, and we're introduced. It's relatively short to a family that is, I think, half Japanese living in Japan, if I'm not mistaken. And we have the main guy who's a salaryman. He has a wife, and they have a child. The salaryman's father is constantly hovering over them, a white gentleman. He's always worried about their health. He's always taking test samples. So you know something's a little off with them. And what happens is one day this kind of dark car kind of kidnaps their son and seems to kill them. And something triggers in the son where he seems to be possibly something like an Iron Man himself, where he's attacked and his metal things come out. He cannot save his son, and this puts an obvious problem in between the marriage and everything like that. And as he realizes, there's kind of these characters in the shadows, one played by Shinya Tsukamoto himself as this kind of hacker who's somehow hacked these systems, this old kind of government system and experiments, and he's in there and realizes that this guy has the possibility to turn into an Iron Man himself, the Bullet Man, if you will, Tetsuo 3, the Bullet Man. So he's trying to provoke him any way necessary, going after his family. While at the same time, there's government agents after the father and these people as well. And it turns into this kind of big, crazy action set piece at times where the Bullet Man has to fight these cops and all of that. Shinya is completely unhinged and crazy in this film. I say the best part about it is a lot of the special effects are fantastic. When our lead character, I believe Eric, turns into the Bullet Man, he is this big blob of metal with these firing cylinders and stuff like that. And it's a cool film. I don't think anything would quite reach the heights of the first film for me, especially that heavy kind of industrial music. It makes me want to get up and just fight the world. This one does have, a song made by Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails, which fits perfectly with this. It does seem a little bit, I don't know how to say lower budget. It's just the techniques in filmmaking and stuff has changed so much, and it's not. It doesn't seem like that expensive. It definitely didn't have. It did take over a year to make, though, at the same time, and I'm just imagining that the first film probably took several years. It's just one of those handheld kind of amazing feats of filmmaking, the first one, time and place and everything, and very influential. This one I think is decent. I don't think it's quite as good as the first one, and it's been so long since I've watched the second one, but I would give it a slight recommend. I think it's definitely worth watching. The one issue it does have is, so it has American actors speaking, English for the most part. Some of them may be Asian or Japanese, but at the same time, I think it was all post-dubbed. The sound took later. So there's people dubbing over themselves, and that does affect the performances here and there. It does not necessarily as good. Dubbing was never quite as good as it was in the 70s, right? But anytime you ADR something, you lose a little bit of the performance. And the dad's not necessarily a great actor. He's not a real actor either. But as far as the features are concerned, we have audio commentary with actor Eric Bostic. The character's name is Eric. I don't remember. Anthony is the character's name in the film. Eric Bostic and Japanese expert Tom Mez. Tom Mez is always a welcome to these kind of things. And then we have Tetsuo the Bullet Man multi-material version. This is an odd special feature. So it's basically all the behind-the-scenes features and storyboards and stuff like that playing over the original film soundtrack. So that's pretty cool and everything like that. And then we have promotional gallery and trailers. So good commentary, some insight. Seems like, I've seen Tsukamoto in so many interviews, and he seems like this humble, very easygoing guy. But they said he was incredibly stressed on this movie, and you realize how much effort he puts into these things. And he's got to have that stress come from somewhere. But yes, Tetsuo the Bullet Man. I don't want to say it's the least of the three. It's not as good as the first one. I can't remember how it rates against the second one. I do remember liking the second one. But yeah, interesting film nonetheless. All right, continuing the Danza Macabre Volume 2 set, and I broke this up in two parts because it's a 4-hour miniseries, so we're still going to talk a little bit about the 1969 TV miniseries Jekyll. Now, I love the original story. Well, I like the concept of the original story. I think the original story is good, but knowing the mystery of the story, it's kind of like it doesn't work to its full effect. I imagine reading that originally, maybe there was a mystery to it, but Robert Louis Stevens, Dr. Jekyll, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So this opens up in a great opening. So we have this Utterson, who's the lawyer of Dr. Henry Jekyll, but not remembering everything like that. They don't really say his name, but we have Utterson walking around this kind of scene, and he goes through, and the way they do this is really great. They just start you off with the action right away. And Utterson's going about this gas station, and apparently some sort of thing has happened. And you don't know it's Utterson at first. And it kind of threw me for a loop. I didn't necessarily remember the story. And when I watched the first episode, I went back and re-listened to the story. I've read it a couple times. But Utterson is walking around, and he's trying to piece together what happened. And he's getting these all these people saying, well, yeah, the guy was crazy. He took 4 of us to hold him down. It is an Italian. But and all this stuff like that. And apparently Mr. Hyde had attacked some girl and paid off the people so they wouldn't get him in trouble. But him figuring everything out and piecing it together I was like, is this Jekyll? Not remembering what he did. I was like, that would be really twisted. But it's not, but it's still incredibly effective how they have this mystery point and how they unveil, like they have these flashes of the crime while everybody's telling the stories. I was like, telling it like this is very true to the book, but at the same time, it's being a little bit different to the point of having some finesse in the filmmaking and story structure that makes it a little bit more interesting. So the first episode I thought was really effective. The second one definitely has more Jekyll in it. I think it's a little bit more aimed at the Jekyll, and it brings in Landon, and they talk a little bit about him and discuss him, and we start to get the idea that Jekyll is possibly the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So Anderson's figuring out a little bit more. This is more, I don't want to say exposition, but it's more filling in the stories and things like that. But they do get into the crime as well of the murdering of the colonel and everything, or the captain. I don't remember who he is. Colonel, I believe. But it's also good. Overall, I think this is a really good miniseries. I don't know if I've ever seen a really bad rendition of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I am partial to the 1980 one with David Hemmings. I think that's quite good. The BBC one. You know what? I don't think I've ever seen the classic ones from the 20s and the 30s, which are probably the most popular, to be honest. But I have seen a bunch of renditions, including Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the Indian version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and some more modern ones, of course. But it's always a great story. I've always found that duality is something of my favorite. I love Dr. Jekyll's sister Hyde. that and the one from the 80s, but David Hemmings is probably my favorite too, and I know. But yeah, I'm looking forward to watching episode 3 and 4 to wrap this thing up. I like the story structure. It's very good. But Hyde looks creepy as shit too. It is in standard def, and there's some features on here too. Building the World of Jekyll interview with set designer Emmanuel Tagaletti, and then we have a video essay by film scholar Joseph Dwyer on the second disc, and the double spiral staircase. So yeah, good stuff here. Great story. If you ever are like bored with horror films or anything like that, go back. If you're getting burnt out, and listen to some of the classic stories like Frankenstein and Dracula, Dr. Jekyll, Invisible Man, Dorian Gray. I think it opens up kind of a little bit. You can see how the renditions compare to the novels and stuff like that, and the novellas, and I think it helps. Check out I Am Legend as well. It's a great one. But yeah, it's always fun to read these things and then go back and listen and see the adaptations and how they're handled. Yeah, good stuff. Jekyll and Danza Macabre Volume 2. Guys, I'm going to be a fucking villain here, and I always say this is only going to take a few seconds because it's a new movie, but I'm probably going to rant for a long time. And this is Evil Dead Burn. And I'm seeing everybody love it, and I can understand why they love it, but I'm also kind of shocked why they love it. Here's what it is, okay? When they did the reboot in 2013, I thought it was okay. I thought Fede Alvarez was not the right guy to make that movie, right? And then they did Evil Dead Rise. And the first time I watched it, I didn't love it. I came back to it, and I was like, you know what? That was pretty damn good. Colorful, great sets and everything like that. Decent characters. So that one kind of warmed me a little bit, and I like it. So Evil Dead Burn, I had not heard too much about it. I had heard a couple things about it that I was going to see last weekend, and those things I was like, those things sound like I'm going to hate this fucking thing. Those are just the things I really don't like in new films, and they just don't work for me. And saying that, I'm a big fan of Sam Raimi, but I've always been aimed at more of the stuff like Darkman, Quick and the Dead, Army of Darkness. I like Evil Dead 1 and 2, of course, especially the first one. And I even love A Simple Plan as one of my all-time favorites that he did. But as far as that, I'm more towards, I'm a Raimi guy. I know a lot of people are Evil Dead guys, so they'll love the first Evil Dead, and then they'll get diminishing returns on the other ones. But I've always been I like the slapsticky Raimi. I like the fun. I like the the innovativeness and the innovative like nature of him, and just the kind of like gag slapstick shit. I think he's really good at that, and I think when you go in to see an Evil Dead movie, and I always have to separate myself, and I finally did it with Evil Dead Rise, and I thought that was a pretty good movie. But as far as like an Evil Dead film, these starting to feel like the Hellraiser latter-day sequels, where it's like, hey, put Hellraiser in that, put Pinhead in that movie, and then we'll call it a Hellraiser film. This is it, guys. This is not Evil Dead to me, and I sound like an old man, get off my lawn. Now, that doesn't necessarily make the movie a bad film, right? No, it does not. But this is just a mixture of things that I don't particularly care for anymore. Now, I love brutal films. Some of my all-time favorite movies have some of the nastiest, brutalest moments in them. I Spit on Your Grave is one of my all-time favorites. Glass House on the Left, Cannibal, Holocaust. I feel like these movies are saying something. I feel like these movies have a point to me. And they also don't typically run damn near 2 hours. So the director of this movie did one. What was it? I can't remember. He did one of the Spider films from a couple years ago, which I thought was overall pretty decent. Color palette was ugly as shit, and it was paced really poorly. But besides that, it was a pretty solid movie. Vermin or something. It was I can't remember. Alien Spider shit. There's 2 Spider movies that came out that year. And I think both of them, if you take the best parts of both, you get a great movie. But as a whole, separated, they're just good to okay to good. And I feel like this movie is just a movie that's not made for me. So I saw some people compare it. They were like, oh, it's very French Extreme. And as far as the French Extreme movies are concerned, I think Martyrs is a masterpiece. I think Inside's got some great moments. I think High Tension, I still could never get over the twist because whatever. And Frontiers I never liked. I don't like Frontiers. I think Frontiers is sloppy, generic, and just overall ripoff of those films, and just doesn't really have a point for me. And maybe if I rewatched it, I'd feel different. So it's this kind of element like that. It's definitely in your French Extreme film. It's a trauma horror film. It has some dark comedy. I think the dark comedy is pretty decent. I think that works the best. I think the dark comedy in the film is pitch black. I think it works the best part of the movie. But here's what it is. I'm not a person that says I have to like all the characters. I just have to be interested in the characters. These characters are boring and bland and miserable to be around. I don't give a shit about any of them, and it doesn't mean I have to like them. They're just boring and bland, and they're not bad actors. Good acting, dedicated acting, just garbage writing. It also does the trauma thing. And I'm so sick of the fucking trauma thing. And I feel like a lot of the trauma stuff doesn't come from a place of truth. It comes from a place of writing that's what's hot and whatnot. And I think like Ari Aster in modern times was one of the only guys that got it right. I feel like there seems to be genuinely truth to those. I don't know. I don't want to shit on somebody because there's a couple movies I saw where I was like, oh, that feels right. And some of the movies I was wrong about. Bring Her Back, I thought didn't work the first time I saw it until I focused on the mother, and I felt all that stuff with the mother worked perfect. And with the kids, their trauma didn't feel real, but with the trauma with the mother felt so good and strong, I felt like it was brilliant. So like there's sometimes where I'm wrong about this, and I don't think this is one of those for me personally. So a movie can't live on brutality alone. And if I was 19 years old, and I'm not saying people that like this are immature, they might are taking away things from it, I would probably love this movie. But if you were to take any set piece or kill scene or gore scene out of this movie and play it for me without context, I would say, oh, that looks like an amazing, well put together scene. That is a really cool fucking gore scene. That is amazing. I can't believe they did. What is that movie? Altogether, I lost interest really fast in this thing. And it is the ugliest film I've seen in a very long time. The DP work, they're definitely trying to carry the spirit of something like an Evil Dead similar, but when you watch a Scott Spiegel or a Josh Becker or a Sam Raimi movie, the guys from those group, their camera angles are fun and innovative, and I feel like they're alive, and you're never bored with it. These ones are all Dutch angles, low ground. Half the movie's filmed from the fucking floor, I feel like. And then there'll be some drone shots and things like that. They definitely go wacky and weird with the camera angles, so I can appreciate their attempts at it. But if every single shot is wacky and goofy, and then it just loses its meaning. Like if I were to say the F word in every sentence, the F word it loses its meaning, right? But that's how I kind of felt. I was like, every scene, every shot in here. But there's some great scenes in here. Again, my number one, another real hot complaint here is stop doing the Christian iconography in the Evil Dead movies. It's so fucking boring, guys. And I know that the first Evil Dead had some inspiration from Exorcist and stuff, to a certain extent. But these are just all more like Exorcist ripoffs with, I don't understand none of the powers in any of these 3 trilogy. Are they supposed to be related or whatever? Are these people just doing whatever they want? None of them follow any rules. I don't know if there's any rules. rules. And I'm making these. The funny thing is, I just watched Ju on the Grudge, which I don't think follows any rules, but I don't think the movie sets any rules up. I think it's just a haunting, and people have different rules and different outcomes because that's just the way that their mentality or whatever happened to them is. While this movie seems to definitely in rules, although sometimes the Evil Dead movies, they're like, oh, that person get turned and this person didn't, because Ash does get turned at one point, but he's fighting it and a lot of people get turned quicker, whatever. But when you're watching Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, it's kind of hard to take the rules and shit seriously because the movie has a certain sense of playfulness. And this movie is incredibly brutal. I got bored, and I just felt like it was cruel for the sake of cruel, and I didn't care about any of the characters. And at the point it got to, it was like, all right, I'm starting to roll my eyes. And so the movie takes place, there's a funeral that a lot of people have to go back, and the family is dysfunctional, and the characters are mean and heartless, a lot of them, and cold. And about 10 seconds of this, as maybe just me, if somebody treats me like that at the funeral, right when the funeral's over, say, all right, guys, see you next time somebody dies. And if they were like, well, I'm leaving, fuck you, I don't give a fuck. Nobody's talking to me like that anymore, period. It will not happen anymore. But it's just like there's a point where like the characters are staying in this dilapidated house for it, and it's like, who's staying here? They were supposed to take care of it, but no one's gonna stay here. It's fucking insane. The gore is decent. I mean, there's some nasty bits at the end. There's some really bad CGI, and it looks like the character from Beetlejuice that smokes too many cigarettes. I'm trying to cut back myself, but I'm not smoking. I'm just saying I'm trying to cut back myself. That's who he looks like, except CGI. I don't know, man. I can see why people like this because it's incredibly brutal. There's so many good set pieces and gore moments. There's definitely some heavy metal attitude about it, but I don't feel like there's a point to this movie. I didn't buy the trauma aspects of this movie. I didn't give a shit to watch any of the characters for more than 15 minutes, and it's damn near 2 hours. I thought it was the ugliest looking film ever. If you guys are going to drain the color of movies, you can't really film in digital because it just looks horrible. I mean, film could get away with a lot of things, but man, it's just like, don't make your movie so bland. And every time people do this kind of thing, they're like, this is what I think Eastern Europe looks like, or some shit. Like, it's the generic Americans' take on Eastern Europe, even though this isn't made by American, but they always do this shit and it always looks bland. And like it's like 3 of these late Evil Dead movies are made by like people that aren't like born in America. Not that it matters. I'm not trying to sound like a xenophobic prick here, but it's always weird when you get something that's so wholly American, like Evil Dead or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and you're like, let's have somebody that's not from here direct it. Sometimes that works from an outsider perspective, but I'd really like to see somebody, somebody, I don't know if he's up to snuff anymore. I haven't really kept up too much, but somebody like Joe Lynch, I think, is a guy who would probably do Evil Dead right. If that makes any sense to me. I think Joe Lynch has that energy, kind of understands that spirit. And if you're going to go foreign people, somebody like Peter Jackson, all his films were a lot. I know he's not going to do an Evil Dead movie now, but somebody like a Don Coscarelli's an American guy. I don't know. His movies seem so young. I think he could do an Evil Dead. They'd probably be a little lighter side. But I guess, I'm just a person that's like, hashtag not my Evil Dead. But at the same point, I'm trying to separate myself from it. And it's still a movie I don't care for. It's tedious to get through. I was checking how long was left in the theaters every 5 minutes. And it's just so boring. It's so fucking boring. Like, I can't watch a movie that's just solely cruelty for the sake of cruelty without anything in there. Like, I'll use this as an example. So The Revenant's a pretty brutal movie. I remember seeing that. But there's like these small acts of kindness in the movie that make it seem human and real. And I think that works with that movie because then when fucked up shit happens to things and people, it's more hard-hitting. But if everybody's a dickhead, I don't see the point of it. You know what I mean? To the point where, I don't know. I don't like this movie at all. I think it's terrible, personally. Technically, probably not. There's some cool scenes, like I said, but at the same time, it still looks awful. It's an ugly fucking looking movie, man. One of the worst looking movies I've ever seen in a theater. A dark, boring, bland look. And if they're going to keep up with making movies like this, next movie I go to do, and it looks like this, I'm going to stay for 20 minutes, I'm going to get up and walk out. I can't. Life's too short, guys. Not for me. A lot of people will like it, and I can understand to a certain extent why you like it, but it's totally not for me at all. And it's not like, oh, it's too brutal. It's boring. I don't give a shit, man. You're talking about a guy who watches Nakatsu erotic films where people are just drugged through the gutter for fucking 2 hours, and I somehow pull away something from that. I pull away stuff from the Italian cannibal films, from the, everything. Like, the Henry's one of my all-time favorite movies. There's nothing here for me in Evil Dead Burn. I gave it like 2 out of 5 stars. Not for me. Not a fan. All right, guys. Let's hop into those 1983 movies.
I have returned. Where is the music now? The sound of laughter. There was never laughter.
What's it like?
What's what like?
Screwing a psycho.
God blows dead dogs. Just lay it in there.
Eat shit and die, Ricky!
Eat shit and live, Bill.
Yeah, Bill, he's a little wet.
31. 32. 32. Year of a man's prime. Loved by many women. You might still learn to swim. 32. Going. Gone.
The kid was cut in half, Arnie. They had to scrape his legs up with a shovel.
Well, isn't that what you're supposed to do with shit? Scrape it up with a little shovel?
One final moment of revenge.
Wondering what's real. All of it is real.
You want to see something really scary? You bet. Really? Yeah.
Get the video, Joe! Long live the new flesh!
No choice but to kill the son of a bitch.
Living one's entire life in a state of fear. It is all I have ever known. Fear.
Are you ready? Okay, go ahead. What are you doing?
Now I'm going to be pretty quick with this one here, and this is female teacher twice raped. Man, if these titles are so classy from the Nakatsu Erotic Films line. So get your pervert card out. You're going to need it. This one, I think, was the last. I read somewhere that it was the last of the female teacher series. So there's a bunch of these from the late 70s all the way to the early 80s. And essentially, they're all like these sex-driven kind of rape fantasy teacher movie deals. Where either the woman has had some trauma and she comes back to somewhere of her past and is either sexually assaulted or starts a relationship with someone she shouldn't or has a sexual reawakening, all this kind of stuff like this. There's definitely always these kind of rape things in this movie. But yeah, we have this teacher here, great actress. She ends up popping up in some films, some bigger films later on, like The Ring later on in her career and stuff like that. But this is relatively, she's in a bunch of the Nakatsu erotic films early in her career, So great performance here. She's a teacher and she has this relationship with this guy and she wants to take it to the next step and he doesn't want to. And that kind of, I think, like triggers something in her, although she does seem to be having these kind of affairs somewhat on the side. I can't remember the chronological order, but I feel like something happened before we kind of see that she's in somewhat of a serious relationship. This guy definitely doesn't want to be married to her. So what happens is she ends up kind of having these affairs with students. Now, some are consensual and some are not, but it becomes between these two kind of students, and these two students begin to fight over her and attack her. And it's just what happens to them. She definitely seems to be interested in them, but to a certain extent, like the consensual acts start off, but they get more brutal and they become non-consensual, and the kids are kind of fighting over and manipulating each other. One of the kids ends up kind of like taking it out on like his maid or mother. I'm not quite sure exactly, but it's also really ugly shit happening there. But yeah, this is a dark movie and it's freaking bleak. And at the same time, her person that she was dating ends up kind of like going away with somebody that she knows, and there's this teacher that starts aggressively kind of chasing after her. It ends up a pretty twisted freaking movie. Actually, I think that's the other one. The teacher starts aggressively teaching her. But this one is, I'm getting all the female teacher movies mixed up. I've seen like 10 of these fucking things. But no, this one I thought was really dark. Especially the idea that the students are actually start to get like aggressive fighting over her and like raping her. And then like they start to confess. I feel like there was a lot of truth to that. Like at the very end, the one more you think violent kid, the more one you think was more dangerous seems to be less dangerous. And of course it has your typical getting raped in a rainstorm kind of scene, which happens in probably half of these movies, including one of the Angel Guts movies, including there's so many of that scenes where there's like a fetish where somebody is like raped in the rain. This one is particularly memorable because it takes place on a tennis court, or which I thought was pretty intense. But this one's good. I think it hits that kind of dark drama stuff and psychological stuff pretty well. It's well acted. Overall, a good one. Female teacher twice raped. The title, maybe not so much, but you get what these are. And I'm just losing my fucking mind here. I'm like, Evil Dead burned down. Female teacher twice raped. Thumbs up. Yeah. I don't fucking know, man. My tastes are so warped at this point. I'm so far from the fucking norm, I think. But hey, it is what it is. Check this one out. Okay, the next one here is a rape revenge film, and I had heard about this. It's produced by Golan Globus and directed by the guy who did Night Force. Oh boy, it's a weird one. The Young Warriors. So I think Synapse originally one time said they were going to release this. I don't know whatever came of that movie. But the big character actors in this one are, of course, Ernest Borgnine, Richard Roundtree, and Linda Day George. And most of their stuff I feel like is shot together or in a couple scenes here. But the lead actor ends up popping up in a bunch of stuff here. So the first like 30 minutes of this movie is Porky's. Or Revenge of the Nerds. It's an 80s sex comedy where all these fraternity guys, there's like a group of 4 fraternity guys and a new pledge that becomes best friends with them. So they're sleeping with all the women. One of the guys is actually dating Linnea Quigley, so there's some steamy sex stuff with Linnea Quigley. Can't go wrong with Linnea Quigley. So all that stuff, you're like 30 minutes, you're like, when is the turn going to happen? And then the turn is one of the ugliest goddamn turns I've seen in a long time. So essentially the main guy here has a sister who's in high school, and she's riding with her boyfriend, and they cut off a van, or a van cuts them off, and the boyfriend says something. Spoiler here, the van runs them off the side of the road, killing the guy in the car crash, and then they proceed to gang rape his sister. And it's not an overly long scene, but it's explicit enough, and they do focus on the stuff that really adds this like disturbing element, because she screams mommy, 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 and then like they turn her over suggesting that they're gonna sodomize her, and she's just saying mommy, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's just nasty. It's just a nastily honestly effective scene though, without showing that much, because you get the point of it. So Ernest Borgnine is our lead guy's father. He's a cop. Richard Roundtree's his partner. Linda Day George is the mother. So that's where they tie into it. And Ernest Borgnine, and they're like waiting in the hospital here. Borgnine is one of my favorite actors, and I don't think his performance is super memorable. Richard Roundtree or Linda Day George, I think they're kind of, to be fair, I think they're kind of wasted in this film. I think they're there for name clout, but I don't think they really carry this film at all. You know, a lot of times somebody like Cameron Mitchell would pop in and he'd steal all the scenes. I can't say that about these guys, although I love all 3 of them, and I know they're capable of doing great work. That's just not their best work in this movie at all. But so these frat guys, yeah. The main guy completely snaps, and he's like, well, fuck this. We're going to get revenge for my sister, because my dad, who's a cop, married a woman who's like 25 years younger than her, is not going to get the shit done. So he starts to kind of comb the streets. At the same time, he's going to college, and he makes these weird art films that are like edited and digital and shit. That adds a weird element where the teachers are always fighting with him. I don't think these teachers are very good, especially the guy who's like, you got to choose a side. Like, it's like message. It's really silly stuff here. But he keeps getting more combat-like in school and shit. So it's like whiplash back and forth here. You're like, does this movie want to be like St. Elmo's Fire or some shit, or does it want to be Porky's, or does it want to be fucking Death Wish? It's like, whatever. And then more so like a Death Wish 2 or 3. So, like, they start going out at night, and they start running into criminals, and they find these guns, and they're blasting motherfuckers away. There is a dog who's like Spud McKenzie that hangs out with him with sunglasses at time, and he's really ridiculous and silly. You know that fucker's getting shot. So, spoiler, there's all dark shit like that. And, you know the old saying, if you're gonna get revenge, dig 2 graves. Why not dig a whole bunch of them? Because a lot of fucking people are gonna get killed, most of which that probably don't deserve it. But the end shootout reminds me of Rolling Thunder in a bar, or something like a low-budget Sam Peckinpah stuff, and it's pretty fucking awesome. I wish the quality of this was better, but the shootout is great. and the ending is darker than shit. And I think the ending, and at first I was like, this is so weird and back and forth. I don't know if it works. And I think like being such like a grimy movie at times and then a sex comedy at times makes it like at odds with each other to the point where like I don't feel like they're getting the message that they want to get across works. And then the ending, I was like, that kind of made up for it because it's just twisted. It's just a twisted, weird movie. And I think a lot of people will either actually come away enjoying this one, or they'll come away finding a lot of unintentional comedy in it and enjoying it that way. So I think Young Warriors I would recommend. Don't watch Evil Dead Burn, but watch A Female Teacher Twice Raped and Young Warriors. See, this is how fucking warped I am, guys. I'm just, it is what it is, but check it out. I liked it. Okay, the next one is a Filipino movie, and this is E.T. Atong Tutong. Now you're thinking, E.T., I could have swore this was the E.T. ripoff, because we have Extraterrestrial by Juan Piquer Simon this year. Last year was E.T., of course, by Spielberg. So I'm like, there's two of these, and they came out the same year. They're sequels to each other, and they're Filipino movies. So Philippines is really weird at this time. Of course, we have stuff like Of the Flesh, which is a great psychological horror drama. And then we have weird shit like Killing of Satan, which is like a classic throwback to those like Mad Blood Island shit, right? And then we have this one here, which feels kind of like an Indonesian movie in a lot of ways or something like that, right? Where it's got the weird comedy elements to it. Not even Indonesian, maybe like it has Hong Kong and Indonesian elements, I would say, more so than Philippines, but it has the Philippines in there as well. So this is an odd film. It's damn near 2 hours. The star of this movie is a guy like Chiquita, and it means like tiny or small, and this guy was in a slew of movies. He was a comedian. He was died in 97, and they said when he died, everybody said the laughter died, similar to the it's a common saying for things like that. The day the music died for whatever, Don McLean song. Big Bopper, whatever. I'm not going through all that. But regardless here, so the day that laughter died, so this guy was kind of a big deal. He had run for he was a small town politician, did a lot of athletics. So right away when I saw this guy, I was like, oh, this guy is somebody. Like you could tell this is like their fucking Ernest or something, right? At the start of this movie. And it opens up and it does spoof E.T. for a second. I was like, oh, this is going to be like, kind of get the E.T. thing. I was like, it's going to be E.T. style. And it reminds me a lot of like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, the weird ass wonky Shaw Brothers one that's in the fourth box set, the last film in that movie, which is a fucking nuts movie. Also, the lead in this reminds me of the lead in that film who pops up in Red Panther as well. Just a very odd, comical kind of guy. But so this is a weird film. And I don't even know where to go here. So there's the subtitles weren't necessarily the best, but this guy is a goofy kind of guy. And there's a bunch of characters that are related to him. There's this girl named Teresa that's always getting picked on by everybody. All the richer people are picking on her, bullying her, saying, listen, you're just fucking up everything. You're getting kicked out of this house. You're not doing this. And our lead guy here, of course, takes pity on her and decides to help her out. Come to find out, there's kind of this criminal organization, and these people are no good. And I don't remember necessarily who dies, but it's set to get some inheritance and everything like that. So everybody's got their eyes on Teresa because she's going to be the possible main inheritor. But they have to stay the night in this haunted house. At the same time, our lead Chiquita guy here has Chiquito. I think it's Chiquito, the masculine, of course. But he ends up like kind of out in the wilderness around this home, and he has met this old man and this young woman, Minerva, that he's fallen in love with. So we have what's the classic story like Red Pony Lantern, the Pony Lantern story, the Japanese, of course, where somebody falls in love with a ghost, which is such a common thing that I think people will be surprised how many movies from even the 80s are still doing the Peony Lantern story where somebody falls in love with a ghost. Of course, we have Ghost, the American one, but we're still looking at stuff like the same year we have a Spirit, the Spirito, the Ringo Lamb movie where somebody's in love with a ghost, and then of course we have like the classic Peony Lantern movies that happen all the fucking time. But it happens in another Filipino movie from 81, 82 called Harplos, or in the House of something, but I can't remember the AK name. But like, so this is a common thing, right? And of course this guy's a comedy act as well, so he falls in love with this woman as too. I guess a similar movie, I would call this like similar to Ghost with Hole, but less horror than that. So like all this is building up. Of course there's going to be people that want the inheritance, and they're going to be kind of scared away until like the final act hits, and it does appear to be like these zombie ghosts that rise from the grass and start chasing them. And that's probably the best stuff in the movie, the most horror oriented stuff in the movie. There's comedy to be had. It's way too fucking long. It's almost 2 hours long. A lot of it is build up, a lot of his comedy, a lot of character interactions here. But overall, this was better than I expected. I thought it would be even more tedious to get through. And I'm not trying to be a dick. The picture quality's not great. The subs aren't great. But overall, I found something to take away from this. A bizarre Filipino movie. And I kind of liked it. I will watch the sequel probably next week. It's also like 2 hours long, and I think it's more comedy related. But this is E.T. Estong, Tutong. So if it sounds like it's up your alley, check it out. All right. Weird angle, I understand, but that's because I forgot to do one. It's been a rough week, guys. But, yeah, so this is one from 83 as well, and this is an anime. I think this might be the only anime I'm covering for 83. Harmagedon. And this director, listed as Rintaro, he would go on to do a couple other bigger movies than this, and I hadn't really heard much about this film. I guess the English dub, is infamously known for being, like, bad, and it was made, like, the 90s. It's a terrible dub, so I would recommend watching it in Japanese. But yeah, this is more of a fantasy adventure film. I guess it does cross into horror. I feel like the Japanese anime really got good in the mid-'80s with stuff like Akira and, Vampire Hunter D and stuff. But this definitely has some of the elements. So essentially what happens here is we have this character in Joe who is kind of an outcast a little bit. But one day he comes to find out that he has a magical power. He has like telekinesis, and he's contacted by this princess who gets these, premonitions that the world's going to end. There's this ancient evil that for no particular reason is going around and devouring the universe and the galaxy, and they're making their way to Earth. So it's up to the princess to put together a super team, including this ancient old robot who had once fought this ancient evil, but now since has been depressed and in a slumber for 2,000 years. So she unthaws the robot, and they go around and collect all these kind of heroes or different nationalities, including kind of a kid who skates on rollerblades from New York, who can kind of kitty pride through walls, kind of vanish through walls, which is pretty cool. So all the characters tend to have these powers. The real cool stuff is there's these couple villain characters that one is like this little bulldog and one's kind of like a lizard guy, and they don't really have a form, but when they take form they're like that, and they can jump into people and kind of turn them evil. And that kind of reminds me a lot of like Guyver, right? Where like at one point in Guyver somebody would seem human and then they turn and like and they turn into a zoonoid. That kind of stuff tends to happen. This is made before Guyver, of course, at least the anime. But yeah, that stuff's really cool, and there's a little bit of tragedy, and of course, I think that the end climax is a little anticlimactic. I do think there's a lot of cool stuff to be had. I do think it runs a little long again. That's kind of a theme that I have, almost 2 hours here, and by a certain point, you kind of lose a little bit of the interest. But overall, I think this is a fun, solid anime movie that I would prefer if you guys watched it in Japanese. It's so funny because there's these two characters that are brother and sister, and the sister, she's supposed to be like super young, but like they drew her hairline like up here. It's so fucking weird. It's so bizarre. But yeah, it's almost like half the movie I was like, is that his mom? What's going on? But yeah, it's just like they forgot to animate the bangs or something. But overall, Harmagedon is pretty cool. Has some nice characters in it. But I feel like the story is not really complete. I feel like it trails up so long in getting to this giant battle, and then almost end battle's a little anticlimactic. But interesting enough, anime from 1983, horror adjacent. It's listed as horror, I've seen stuff that's less horror listed as horror, but I've seen a lot of stuff that's not listed as horror, much more horror than this. But yeah, check it out. Oh, I should mention, also a theme this year, of course, the world ending, that Armageddon stuff. We have some other stuff that's horror adjacent, like The Day After and Testament coming out this year. But 81 was a big year for that, like Possession has that stuff, and the couple Christian-oriented horror films are about the end of the world. So the end of the world is always kind of in mindset about that idea. But yeah, this year has particularly a few of them as well. Oh, and all the Italian post-apocalyptic movies. So yeah, tons of that shit. All right, we're here for a very special Patreon video. And we're here to do Kevin J. Connor. It's just Kevin Connor. Kevin J. Connor's the actor, right?
Yeah, I do not recall seeing a J anywhere in this director's filmography. Kevin
Connor's masterpiece, The Land That Time Forgot. Yes, from what is this, 70? It's mid-70s, 76?
This one's 74.
And the other one's 75, the sequel, right?
Well, no, so People is 77.
Oh, yeah, I knew one was 77. So, right. Yeah, this is Kevin Connor, to me. I always remember him for directing a couple of really cool horror films. He's a British director, which is so wild that he directed Motel Hell from 1980.
Right. Yeah, because it feels so American, right? It feels
it's
so
a Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah, it feels like such Americana, it has kind of that sly American satire to it. But yeah, he was basically just kind of like a journeyman British director. He only, I think, directed like a dozen movies.
Four adventure flicks.
Yeah, well, five.
Five adventure flicks. But his horror films are good. I mean, I think they are.
Well, he
Two of
did.
them are.
He actually. So these at least these three adventure flicks. I mean, it's sort of depending on which way you look at it. There's different groupings. Like some people say it's a series of three. Some people say it's a series of four. Some people say it's a series of five. But he had started earlier with Amicus. He did one of the anthologies, I think, From Beyond the Grave.
That's right.
And
that's
then
a 74?
That's earlier. It's earlier in 74 because this was 74.
Yeah.
But yeah, this series of adventure films, depending how you want to look at it, there's three that he did for Amicus. And these were the three that were based on Edgar Rice Burroughs novels or stories. And that was The Land of the Time Forgot, At the Earth's Core, and then The People That Time Forgot. At the Earth's Core is kind of unrelated, whereas People That Time Forgot is actually a sequel to The Land That Time Forgot. But those were the last three that Amicus did. Those were like the last three Amicus films, pretty much, until this like alleged revival or whatever. And then it kind of shoots off into, there's another Doug McClure movie he did. I think Doug McClure's in it. Warlords of Atlantis.
He is.
And then there's but that's not an Edgar Rice Burroughs thing. It's just sort of another adventure film with him and directed by Kevin Connor. And then there's another one that's, I think, McClureless, called Arabian Adventure, which I hadn't watched that one either. That just came out in Severin's most recent Christopher Lee box set, because Christopher Lee, I guess, plays Jafar or whatever. It's like some
as he
sort of
should.
nice thing, right?
As he should.
So yeah, so depending how you want to, and those two last ones were produced by EMI, another British company. So depending how you want to slice it up, it's either some people put them in three, but there's only two of them that are actually related.
But you say right. EMI, I think immediately the British guy's like Thordum EMI. I feel like I remember a trailer with that British deep voice.
I think of the Sex Pistols song. There is no reason why EMI, but whatever.
I do want to mention he did a couple other horror films besides, we mentioned From Beyond the Grave, which is a good anthology, but he also did another one from 82, House Where Evil Dwells, which does have Doug McClure in it. And I knew Doug McClure not probably from, I'm sure this guy's in a bunch of westerns. He's got that I was a western kind of actor guy, American tough guy thing going on. But I always knew him from Humanoids from the Deep, and I was just like, who is this? Who is this thick motherfucker punching people? Right. And he's got a good American quality about him, kind of good natured quality about him. But he's good in these. I mean, he was
mostly a TV guy. His big thing was he had like one of the secondary main roles in The Virginian, which was a TV series that ran for like 250 episodes. So he was kind of known mainly for that. His film career never really broke off. He did like a lot of TV movies, and this series of films, and like you said, Humanoids from the Deep. That was definitely the main thing I saw him in. And it's kind of unfortunate actually that I didn't see these movies when I was a kid, because Agreed. I would probably loved them as a kid, and it probably would have added some sort of nostalgia factor to them for me. But as it stands now, watching them as I'm pushing 50, I'm kind of just like, man, whatever.
It's fine. Like we were talking about the Hammer flick, which is direct competition with Amicus, The Lost Continent, which I think is a better version of this movie. I think it has more creepy crawlies and scariness.
It's weirder. It has like weirder monsters, and it's them walking on like the peat moss, like the floating things with like the balloons that are holding them up for a while. It's just really bizarre.
And crab monsters scare the shit out of
me. Right. And that one, that was based on a Dennis Wheatley book, who wrote a bunch of occult things. Hammer adapted him with The Devil Rides Out and To the Devil a Daughter as well.
Daughter.
Right. And I think
there's
some
last
other
Hammer's horror film was To the Devil a Daughter, and that didn't do very well. I don't think it wasn't very well loved. I'm not a fan of that one myself, to be honest.
I kind of like it, but whatever. It's It's funny. I was someone that didn't grow up with Hammer. I didn't get into
Yeah.
Hammer until later. Like for some reason, I don't remember ever seeing the Hammer films on TV the way that I would see like the Universal movies and stuff. So I didn't get into Hammer until much later. And by that time, I was already into like slasher movies and things like that. So the Hammers just seemed kind of old-fashioned to me. So I didn't really start picking up on them until much later. And a lot of them I didn't see till the DVD age.
I didn't get in deep into Hammer until later as well. I mean, I remember I think in my early 20s I went through the Draculas and Frankensteins maybe, and I just love Frankenstein and Dracula, mostly Frankenstein. So I went through that. But I went through that whole rendition where I watched all the Hammer horror films. And after that
Right.
I had like a deep love for them. I love Gothic stuff,
Hmm.
but I've always tended more towards like the Euro Gothic stuff, more so
Right.
like Spain and Italy. But I love the Hammer stuff. I'm a big fan of it. Just when we start getting to the latter days, I mean, I don't know why the To the Devil a Daughter just didn't work for me as much as some of the other ones.
Right.
But I'm more of like when the Hammer started pushing the boundaries a little bit, we get a little bit sleaze in it, like Vampire Circus or Countess
Yeah.
Dracula. I
Well,
love
yeah,
that stuff.
yeah. Well, it's funny, one of the earliest ones I saw because when I was getting into a lot of this stuff, there wasn't discs. It was
Yeah.
all, you're still basically at the mercy of whatever your local video stores had. So like Vampire Lovers was one of the first ones I saw. Um, and honestly, like there wasn't a lot of choices as far as these hammers go. Like it's funny, I can remember being a kid and I was the Wolfman one year for Halloween, and I got my grandmom to make me a costume, like help make a costume. Like I wanted the shirt ripped with like fur underneath of it, so she's like sewing all this stuff together and like made these werewolf gloves and stuff. But I was trying to base it as much as I could off of the pictures I had seen of Oliver Reed
Yeah.
in Curse of the Werewolf, but I had never actually seen the movie, and like I didn't end up seeing that movie till probably I was in my late teens, I would say, till I
Yeah.
finally was able to get a copy of it on tape. Because yeah, none of my local stores had it, and yeah, I don't remember ever seeing it on TV when I was a kid, or if it did play, it was probably like too late at night for me to stay up for.
As you can tell, we are dying to talk about this movie. We've
So-
literally
so-
avoided the entire fight. And like the truth to be told is, I don't have much to say about it. I mean, it's
Well,
fine.
so
It's a period piece, and
Yeah,
like I
so-
guess we'll get into the plot, right? The plot
Well,
is
so Edgar
it's
Rice
World War
Burroughs.
One. Is this
Yes.
World War One?
So
Yeah.
Edgar Rice Burroughs was like a sort of like turn of the century writer, early 1900s. And he was basically mainly known, he became kind of a household name for the Tarzan series.
Yeah.
He wrote a series of Tarzan books, and he also wrote the John Carter of Mars series, which actually late, they unfortunately they never really took off cinematically, which is a shame. The one that I think Disney did it, I actually thought was pretty decent. I actually didn't hate it. It gets a lot of hate, but I actually thought it was okay. But that was like the Lone Ranger movie, so what the hell do I know?
I don't like the Master of the Universe movie, so
There you go. Yeah,
What
that
is-
was,
I mean,
that was kind of crap, but that's another discussion.
I don't
for
think
another time.
anybody likes the other two movies you mentioned at all.
I know, you're right. I'm alone on those islands. But yeah, Edgar Rice Burroughs, one of his main things, besides, these two very successful franchises, was, he was kind of known as one of the first writers to really kind of push things in a multimedia direction. A lot of other authors at the time were like, oh, we can't have these as films or anything like that. Like, they thought they would like dilute their brand or something, or somehow it was like a lesser art form. But he allowed Tarzan to be in comic strips and movies and all this stuff. And, it kind of blew him up, and it kind of made Tarzan into like this sort of pop culture thing, in such, in those early years, and still today, really. But yeah, that's more or less all I have to say about Edgar Rice Burroughs. He was more a sci-fi, mostly a sci-fi / adventure guy. And these films do kind of follow that format of, these sort of, you kind of feel them as sort of like juvenile adventure films.
What's the H.G. Wells story where they accidentally go back in time and the guy steps off the platform and fucks the future up with the dinosaurs, where he goes back to hunt the dinosaurs? I feel like this is similar to that. And this is
Right.
also very similar to King Kong, right?
Mhm.
I don't
Right.
know what came first. This book probably pretty old. I'm not sure exactly when it was written.
Yeah, the story
But-
was early 1900s. I forget when.
Yeah, so before King Kong.
Right.
But it's
Yeah.
the same story, right? We
More or
went
less,
somewhere,
yeah.
we popped out, and now there's this weird animals and dinosaurs. They go back
Yeah.
some prehistoric state during war. They're at war.
Oh yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
it
I was gonna
opens
say
up
yes, yeah. So World
right
War
back.
One,
World War
Wor-
One, and
Yeah, Doug McClure is this, macho
It,
sailor on just like some sort of like trading ship or something.
it's so weird. They
Yeah,
don't
he's
even
not
show the boat get blown up. They show him
right.
in the water with like a couple guys, like him and the love interest, because she doesn't have much to do either. And then
Right.
they're in the love, and then they
Yeah.
do some weird tactics of another boat getting sunk, and they're like, we're gonna have to get on these Germans, this submarine,
Yeah, yeah,
and it's a
basically,
fucking
right.
mess back and forth.
They're sunk by Das Boot, this German submarine. And there's this, commandant commander guy in charge of everything. And then for the next half hour, the movie just goes back and forth
It's literally half an hour.
between who has the upper hand. They keep, and I'm just like, why the hell do these
Why are we
guys
doing
like
this?
these guys literally sunk a boat with innocent people and just kill them and just be done with it, or if they're
It's also-
Germans, just kill them. Right.
But they're Germans for one. There's not the Nazis that everyone's grown to hate. So like I immediately when I saw them, I was like, they're Nazis, even though they're not technically Nazis.
Right.
They're future Nazis, but most likely they're future Nazi sympathizers.
Right.
But it's so stupid. It's kind of like the trope in a movie where a character escapes, they capture him, and then he escapes again and they capture him. It's just like they're fighting. Oh, I got
Right.
the upper hand now. I got the upper hand now.
Yeah.
To be honest, there's characters in the background that have familiar like character actor faces, but they don't do much. They don't get that. They don't have any comedy moments. Like when you watch
Yeah.
King Kong, I feel like the crew are like even in the Peter Jackson version, the crew is memorable. They have character
Yeah,
actors
yeah.
there. They have good lines. There, you remember them getting picked off. I feel like all the characters are fairly disposable, which doesn't help. I mean,
Right.
you have the two Nazis, and you have Doug McClure and the female, and then you have the native that they find, which is absolutely a ridiculous.
Yeah, his name's like
character of nonsense.
Oog or Oof or
Ooga
whatever they call
booger,
him.
who gives a
Right,
fuck?
Yeah,
Like-
yeah, he's just some like Cro-Mag going around. But yeah. So they show up on this. I guess it's like hidden in the middle of this giant ice continent or something, and they like gotta maneuver their submarine through some hot spring underground, and they pop up, and everything's prehistoric. It's untouched by time, as the title would indicate.
Must be creationists who made this movie because we got dinosaurs and people living. I don't think it's a real place though. It's not like the prehistoric time from us, right?
Right.
It's what was that movie, that Full Moon? It was that one that they did that was like shelved for years and they finally finished it. It's kind of like that movie.
Primevals?
Yeah, where they
Okay,
had
yeah.
that hidden land and they go in. That's kind of a fun movie. Actually, it's very similar to this, but I'd say actually probably a little bit better.
Right. Yeah, and so yeah, so basically once they get to the island or this, this paradise, this prehistoric paradise inside of this place, basically, they're eaten by pterodactyls. They're attacked by just random dinosaurs. I saw some complaints that there wasn't that the dinosaurs weren't stop motion, but actually most of them are done is like, big,
I think the dinosaurs actually look kind of cool.
they're it's a lot of puppets, a lot of like animatronic
they're all the same
puppets and
dinosaur.
stuff. And I was like, this,
and they just alter them slightly.
Right.
The Allosaurus looks a lot like the Plesiosaur. I think that's a Plesiosaur. They're just big green things. They're kind of freaky looking though at times. They're gross.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when they're shooting the Allosauruses, I felt bad for them.
Yeah, I did too. I'm just like they're just living their life, man. Come on.
But you came to their island.
Right. And then and basically, it's funny. I think I saw somebody on Letterboxd review this. A bunch of white people show up, kill all the indigenous people, and then steal their oil. I'm like, yeah, that tracks. Because that's 100% what happens.
And then the whole place blows the fuck up.
Right, yeah, and then it just becomes this like long a series of explosions. Now, I will say, for as just kind of okay as most of the movie was, and I sound like, we kind of sound like we're shitting on it, but I thought it was fine. It was
fine.
It was harmless entertainment. It was a perfectly okay time waster. But the ending is great.
Yeah, that's where I bumped it up.
Yeah, the actual ending happened, and I'm just like, Jesus! It becomes like this weirdly existential, kind of like dark, messed up ending. And I was just like, this is like a shockingly good ending for a shockingly mid movie.
I do have some complaints though, because we have a lot of dinosaurs, and some of the characters do get picked off by dinosaurs, which is fun.
Right.
But like the movie, like the Galaxy of Dinosaurs is one where they like use, is that Galaxy? Planet of the Dinosaurs. Galaxy is the Tempe movie. I'm talking about Planet of the Dinosaurs, where they pick off characters here and there, which is fun. That's a very fun killer dinosaur movie. So
and
this one
weirdly gory for what it is too.
It's a good
like
one.
people getting
if I don't remember.
people getting impaled by like stop motion dinosaurs and stuff.
It's a fun movie. But this one here, like you have the dinosaurs, but then you have the main crew all gets picked off by freaking tribes people at the very end in like the shittiest way. It's just like so boring, guys. It's like even Jurassic Park Lost World knew to pick most of the people off with dinosaurs. Like,
exactly.
And I know people shit on that movie. I mean, like, yes, it's not as good as the first movie, but it's still entertaining crap. Let's be honest.
Right.
Just Jurassic Park with dinosaurs. I meant King Kong with dinosaurs. That's all it is. But no, so then we have like the tribespeople like kill almost all the characters. And like I wish they would have spent more time with the characters. I feel like it's not like they're bad actors, like, but can you imagine if we like had this crowded with like American character actors, like, oh, there's Matt Clark and there's Jeffrey Lewis and shit like that. It would have been a little bit stronger, I think.
Yeah.
Or even Hammer backgrounds, like throw Michael Ripper in there.
Well, and I think another one of the things that it missteps in is that it adds this human conflict to a movie that doesn't need human conflict. Like literally, you're at a place full of dinosaurs. Like that's enough peril. Like you don't need to have like, oh, they're the Germans and we're gonna fight them and all this stuff. Like it just muddies the waters. Like it needed to, for an adventure movie, I would have been perfectly fine with them just having to survive in this crazy new land. And they find oil on the island. They figure out that's the way they can power their submarine again. They're going to refine this oil. So they literally, with like some saws and hammers, build like a goddamn oil refinery, like out in the middle of, this prehistoric land. So it's really a bizarre movie, but
there's an absolute hilarious scene where they kill. I don't know if I'm calling this. It's a plesiosaur, maybe they kill it, and then they cut to them eating it. They literally cook the plesiosaur, and the chef is serving them. It's like, bro, I'm not eating this. Like,
right.
Like what kind of bacteria or anything could be in the water or in this thing? Like, it would have been funny if all of them just died from like parasites. Like there's giant parasites in it and they just died. Because it probably would have. Let's be honest.
And that's one of the things that is that this one or the sequel? Now I can't even remember which one's which because I watched it in such close succession. No. Is this the one where they keep looking at the molecules of water under the microscope and they keep saying that like, oh, even the water has living things in it, and
I don't think so. But how the fuck did they get a microscope in the sequel?
Okay, so that's the sequel then. Okay,
because the sequel, at the end of this one, everything burns down. The spoiler. The sub dies, and Doug McClure and the love interest. I hate calling her love interest. I don't know the actress's name, and like Doug McClure is the most memorable thing of this movie. So I'm not like, I mean, the Nazi guy is like, hey, I look like Paul Mueller, but I'm probably a bigger and better actor. But that's my reference point is Paul Mueller because that's what I watch. But no, so they like the whole place burns to the fucking ground. How's he still got a microscope for the sequel? Did they like run into like other scientists there?
So the sequel is basically another group of people coming to look because at the end, the bottle with his story in it that Doug McClure throws in the ocean.
How do you write that whole story?
Someone finds that, and a newspaper funds an expedition to try to look for them. And it's led by Patrick Wayne, who is John Wayne's son.
Yes. I've seen probably like a dozen Patrick Wayne movies, but I couldn't spot the guy out on a fucking lineup.
Yeah, right.
Unforgettable.
Yeah. He is so forgettable, it's ridiculous. Like even in this, I'm just like, he is so bland.
Even Chris Mitchum or like one of the Mitchum boys, they're rememberable, but this guy I forget every time.
So in the sequel, right? So they go and they try to find this place, and Patrick Wayne was actually friends with Doug McClure. So he's looking for his buddy, and the newspaper wants their big scoop, and they send a lady reporter photographer with them.
Of course.
So they finally, they finally find this island, or this whatever it is. And they go in, and of course, this one, I will say, the sequel I thought was actually, it gets to business like a lot quicker. So it's not long until there's this like cool, like they're flying into it instead of going through the underneath of it this time in the submarine. They fly into it, and there's like this cool scene with like a pterodactyl versus a biplane, like an old-timey biplane.
You're selling this movie way harder than the first one.
I know, and I shouldn't, because I gave them both the same rating, because this movie doesn't have the cool ending. So they land there, and there's some dinosaur fights, and they find this dinosaur, and this one they also sex it up a little because they find a cave lady who I guess sticking with the times, they have her in a very tight like animal fur top, and
that's like what they wore. That's like historically accurate.
Exactly. And I mean, honestly, the most suspenseful parts of this movie were me wondering if her boobs were going to bust out of them, because it was so
Hammer,
close.
They would have been pushed up so high.
It's literally like that. But so yeah, in the sequel, then they start looking at these molecules and they're trying to find Doug McClure. They're trying to rescue him, and they're like going upstream. And as they go, they find that like evolution is progressing the further up they go. And eventually it gets to like a bunch of like these warriors dressed like Japanese samurai who live in Castle Grayskull, and it turns out like they're the rulers of this land. Unfortunately, they don't really do a lot. Like I was expecting like this, some sort of bigger fight,
Well,
like
it's
a
weird
like
too,
like a,
'cause-
or like a modern versus old sort of battle, like almost like
Well, they
GI
have that-
Samurai or something. But it
Did you ever
never
see-
really
yeah,
comes
GI
to all
Samurai
that.
is fucking fantastic,
Right,
right? That's
yeah,
the one with
yeah.
Sonny Chiba. That movie's
Exactly.
awesome. That movie's
Right.
like a surreal dream. Like when I was watching
Right.
it, I was like, this exists? This
Yeah,
does
yeah.
not seem real. That's a great movie. Also, it's interesting to mention that Kevin Conner did the House Where Evil Dwells, which is definitely mixing in the samurai kind of notion. I don't know
Right.
if he was just had a fascination with that stuff, or
Yeah,
it's
so
actually in the book, or what.
It's weird. Like they're not actual samurai because they're not Japanese people, but they look like it. Like they have the horses with the big flags up, and the swords and the helmets, and I'm just like, what the hell is this? But yeah, and then they live in literally it's Castle Grayskull. It's a giant skull castle thing. But yeah, and then it just sort of kind of slows down. And then the ending I thought was a little lackluster. Again, it's just like a lot of things exploding. Um, and yeah. So yeah, I thought both of the films, and weirdly, like it's funny because I had just had them pulled when you sent me the list of titles that you're like, oh, here's the latest picks, and I'm like I literally just watched that movie last night.
I was like,
So
we'll
yeah,
do that
yeah,
one then.
yeah, perfect timing. But yeah, I thought both of them were, like I said, they're pretty much harmless time wasters. I wish I'd seen them when I was a kid because,
Me too.
I probably would have thought they ruled. And it's funny to think that, these kind of were what adventure films were for a while. It was sort of these like little cheesy. I mean, I guess on the higher end, you had like the Sinbad movies or Jason and the Argonauts.
Those
and
are
sort
better
of those-
movies.
I agree. I agree. But so these were kind
Well,
of
King Kong's an adventure movie.
right.
100%.
But so these were kind of like cheaper versions of sort of like that Sinbad-esque or like we said, the Lost Continent, but not as good as any of that stuff.
I mean, it's not Amicus was never quite as big as Hammer, but I feel like their
Right.
anthologies were just as good as Hammer movies, sometimes better.
Yeah,
Honestly.
no, I agree.
I think so.
Yeah,
not
I mean,
always, but I think a lot of them are great.
yeah, some of their anthologies are great. I think I mean, the original Tales from the Crypt is like fantastic. I think that's
Tales from
one.
the Crypt, Vault of Horror are fucking fantastic.
And
Those
I
are two of
I
my
think-
favorites.
Is it Asylum?
Asylum's
yeah,
good.
yeah.
That's the one with
Well-
Herbert Lom is the doctor, and he's like, you have to
I
find
think
out who
so.
the patient. Yeah, which is the
Well,
most ridiculous setup ever. He's like, you have to pick who used to be a doctor here, and then you can work. It's like this isn't you're the crazy person, right? Because this is not how we do things.
Which one is the one where like it's like a group of old people or something,
And they're
or
on a
blind
train.
people? No, and they're being abused.
Oh, that's
so,
Blind Alleys.
So yeah, they eventually.
I don't
build
know
that
if it's actually Blind Allies or Blind Alleys. That's from
So-
Tales from the Crypt.
okay, yeah, and they build that hallway with the razor
One of my
blades in it,
favorites.
and then oh my
And
god,
Patrick McGee is actually
Yeah.
one of the guys. He's like, it's too cold.
that thing with the razor blades fucked me up so much when I was a kid. I saw that on
They
TV,
do
and yeah, it freaked me out so
They
much.
have they do it in the '80s series too from '87, and they
Oh,
do
okay.
that one. Yeah, yeah.
I
That's
haven't
one of
gotten to
my
that
all-time
episode yet.
favorites, man.
Oh, no, that's
it's
funny.
great. I love
Yeah,
it. It's actually the '72 version's better.
Okay, yeah, me and a buddy were rewatching the Tales from the Crypt TV
Oh,
series.
I grew up with that show. I know that show by heart.
Yeah, so but we only made it like through a little while, then he stopped coming over. He hadn't
I
been
wonder
up in
why.
a while, so apparently I'm a jerk. But no, yeah, so I have him still just sitting there. I might just say screw him and start watching him again because that's
What
the rest
season
of the
are you
seasons
at?
left. I can't remember. I think we're like halfway through season 2.
Season 2 is really strong. That's the big one. That's like 18 episodes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I
Because the
can
first
remember-
season's only 6, and then it's 18, then it's like 12, 15, or something like that.
Yeah, I can remember when they first aired. That was like must-see TV for me. They were
Oh
like the
my
best
God.
things ever.
It
Yeah,
was so
every
fun.
week,
It's
right?
everything, just desserts and like I love the anthology. I'm a big fan of anthology horror, especially the Amicus stuff. So like that's why it's so weird that these are Amicus pictures because I know Hammer did their prehistoric movies too, like 100,000 years BC and stuff. And I mean I guess these are comparable to the
prehistoric
adventure
women
movies.
and yeah, I mean I feel like those were more just like eye candy displays. I mean
Yeah.
they're not
Lost
Viking women
Continent's
and
the
stuff like
best.
that. Yeah,
I like Lost
'cause
Continent the best.
I do too. Yeah. The rest of them are pretty disposable, I think. The Hammer ones, anyway. I mean, it's weird to me that there was that sort of like prehistoric trend, like that kind of became a little thing for a while. But yeah, it wasn't long after this, and I think I read somewhere that the people at the time forgot actually came out like 2 weeks after Star Wars hit or something.
Oh, fuck.
And I'm like, can you imagine being a kid and seeing Star Wars and then going to watch like the people at the time forgot? Like it's like you can't come back from after Star Wars. You know what I mean? And you look at, Star Wars, Raiders of the Lost Ark, like that's when, these adventure films became big things. So it's it's weirdly charming that there's this small pocket of time where movies like this were possible, and they apparently did well enough, I mean, AIP put them in theaters, and, they played a long time.
Well, AIP had that deal with Amicus, and they produced a couple, like Madhouse was one that they produced together and fell through. That did not work out well for them. I think that might have been one of the last ones, or they didn't like making the movies together. I know that. They fell out a lot. Two cheap people there, Milton Sabowski and fucking AIP. Is it what? Arkoff and Nicholson?
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably fighting a lot.
I'm sure.
I'd love to hear their arguments. Calling each other old fucking slurs.
Right, pretty much.
Yeah, fucking limey. Guarantee it. But no, this is a fine movie. I'm glad I watched it. I remember my friend Dustin, who just made movies. He brought these up. Did you ever see these? It was like 10 years ago he brought these up. Right. So I remember when they got released on Blu-ray, I picked them all up because they were like relatively cheap on sale. When Kino used to have those sales, and it's like, oh, $10 for these, I'm gonna grab it, And I almost couldn't find it. I was like, fuck. I was going through the Kinos, and then because I have the Kino separated, the black ones. Right. I have Kino 4Ks, Kinos with slipcovers, Kinos classics in the black case, then Kinos with the normal covers on the side, like the actual, they look like normal releases. Then the code red ones that are Kinos, fucking, I have them all like that. So I'm looking through like 5 sections. It's like, I know I have these fucking things, and now they're out of print. And I was like,
well, these, at least the 3 ones that MGM owned, the 2 Time Forgots, and then At the Earth's Core, which was sandwiched in the middle. Which I'm actually looking forward to rewatch, sitting down with that one too, because that's, Carolyn Monroe and stuff, and Doug McClure. I like that, automatically makes it better.
He doesn't really do much. He's still good, though. He's got a good presence.
Yeah. Yeah, I like him. I
do too. He's fine.
He fits the role for what's needed.
He's an old school throwback, Like, he's like a John Wayne type, but not John Wayne.
Exactly.
He's like if John Wayne weren't racist.
Right.
It's like...
Yeah, and just like John Wayne, you always get, if you put it in Doug McClure, you're getting Doug McClure. You're getting that same sort of screen persona. There's not much stretch in there. My favorite John Wayne, where I think The Conqueror, where he plays like Genghis Khan or whatever, and he's like, basically they throw some Tibetan clothes on him and like a Mongolian mustache, but he still acts exactly the same as John Wayne.
I've never seen that one.
Like,
that one doesn't.
You guys over there, it's just like, come on.
It's like, we gotta build this wall.
Right.
I've never seen it. It doesn't look like a John Wayne. I love his Western stuff.
Yeah, The Conqueror is not very good.
It doesn't look like his good one. It looks like the studio made John Ford and John Wayne make that movie, and nobody wanted to make it.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of not good. So I wouldn't say waste your time.
I'm sure it's like 3 hours long for no reason too.
But so these 3 Edgar Rice Burroughs, Kevin Costner adaptations, those Kino discs are actually produced by Walt Olson. So they're like co-Scorpion releases because they all have like the Scorpion logos at the beginning. So yeah, there was that whole weird period where both Olsons were kind of like.
I think at Earth's Core is a classic Kino's line. It's the black covers, but the land and the time that people forgot. Those 2 are the ones you're explaining. I have them all separated like a weirdo.
Yeah. Well, and then Warlords of Atlantis doesn't have a disc release.
I think Studio Canal owns that.
Yeah, somebody does. I don't remember who.
I have a DVD import.
There's a recent
Imprint.
I think Imprint in Australia.
Yeah, Imprint has
did
a box set.
A box set of these that has Warlords of Atlantis in it, but I'm not paying them for that shit.
I'll keep my DVD. That probably looks pretty damn good. I haven't watched it. I have a feeling that Warlords is going to be the most fun for me.
Right. It's funny because I thought I had a German Blu-ray of Warlords of Atlantis. So when I was pulling these 3, I actually pulled that as well. And then I realized when I was looking at it, I'm like, wait a second. It was actually a German Blu-ray of Prisoners of the Lost Planet. I'm like, well, that's
the one with John Saxton?
Yeah, but I'm like, well, I guess I'm watching this too.
Is that any good?
I don't remember. Honestly.
I think it's 83, isn't it?
I was going to say, it's been so long since I watched it. I have no idea. but it is early 80s. I can tell you that.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I remember.
I haven't seen it since VHS, and I remember like nothing about it, which is
No, it's
not usually not a good
much less.
sign. But
No, like Kroll was one that I watched a million times as a kid, and every time
Right.
as an adult I tried to watch it, I could not
Really,
get through it.
I loved
And
that when I was a kid.
I'm sure I like it. I loved it as a
Right.
kid, but I don't know why it doesn't hold up. It's just I can muscle through it because I watched some crap. I watched some
Right.
straight garbage. Like Kroll's probably a good movie. I'm just like being a baby. I don't know what it is,
Right.
but I appreciate it. I know I have a couple other ones this Patreon that are pretty good. I'm looking forward to watching Dead Man's Shoes. I love that movie. That's a good
Yeah,
one.
I've never seen that. That one or the other
That's a
one you
good
listed. I can't remember what it was. And then yeah, whatever. Let me know whatever bug one you pick because I'll be curious to see if it.
I'm not sure. We can figure out the bug one right now.
Okay.
I've probably seen most of the bug ones.
Oh wait, before we get into that, what's the final rating for this?
I would give it a 6 out of 10.
Okay. I went 5 out of 10 just because, I mean, to me that's a C. You know, it's a perfectly fine. You know, it's passing, but there's not really a lot to it to push it to the above average range for me. For me, a 5 is totally dead center. So there wasn't really a lot that would bring me back to it again anytime soon, or make me tell anybody, "Oh, you should check this out." You know,
You gotta see it.
right. Yeah, the ending was good though. I will say the ending was surprisingly good.
The hardest thing about this movie is not saying the land before time instead of the land that time forgot. It
Yeah,
really is.
you're
I
not
actually
wrong.
I typed it in on Letterboxd and I was like, I rated it. I was like, why are these people rating this fucking movie so high? And I was like, oh, this is the land before time. Which I'm gonna say is probably a better movie than this.
You're probably
from
not
memory.
wrong, right?
I
Yeah.
haven't seen that movie since I was a kid, but there was like 12 of those movies.
I might have actually seen that in theaters when I was a kid.
It's 89, isn't it? It's late.
Yeah,
80s.
so I would have been like 12, but I think, you know, like if like my family, you know, my little sister or son wanted to see it, I think we might have went and saw that. So I might have actually seen that in theaters.
You know what? I've seen the big ones like Them. I don't know if I've ever seen The Black Scorpion, and I don't think I've ever seen Empire of the Ants.
Empire of the Ants is kind of 70s camp. Black Scorpion's honestly pretty good.
I've seen Tarantula. I like that one. Did Jack Arnold do Black Scorpion too? Or I feel like Jack Arnold was doing a lot of those. I know he did Tarantula.
I don't remember.
So Black Scorpion.
Black Scorpion's definitely, it has Willis O'Brien stop motion. I remember that.
Deadly Menace I haven't seen either.
Deadly Menace is okay.
Black Scorpion's the best one. We should do Black Scorpion.
Black Scorpion's good. Yeah.
That one sounds better.
I'd rewatch Black Scorpion.
Yeah, we'll do that one too.
I was gonna say unless you find something better.
I'll look, but Black Scorpion seems like the one. I mean, I think that's probably the biggest bug one I haven't seen.
Yeah, Them's probably the best out of that batch.
Them's great.
Out of that sort of like 50s bug batch that I've seen anyway. I'm sure there's still plenty I haven't seen.
Them keeps it in the mystery at the beginning. They're like, what happened? And then like actually by the time you find out what's going on, you're already scared. So by the time you see giant ants, you're like,
well, and it's not just like one giant, like there's a bunch of them and they're like doing shit, you know, and there's like fire and just, yeah. I was really impressed by them.
That's like the one that came out same year or right after Godzilla where they're like trying to compete with it or something. I don't know, but it definitely has the funny fucking like overly social message at the end where like the guy's like he's like walking and talking to himself and he almost looks right at the camera. He's like, men shouldn't meddle in atomic warfare. And he starts talking to you about like fucking, you're like, talking to me? Like, I didn't do it. Like, but it's definitely one of those like 50s big bug movies. They're all good though.
Right. Well, not all of them. I mean,
they're all fun.
Once you get to like Mr. Big's beginning and the end where it's like superimposed grasshoppers and stuff.
I don't know what the fuck. What movie?
I think it's called Beginning of the End.
I don't know what that. But Bird Eye Gordon's movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen.
Yeah, I remember that one. I remember that one being kind of shitty. But
you ever seen this movie Burned at the Stake?
That's the witch one, obviously.
Yeah. That one's much better than expected. It's nothing like his other stuff.
I think I saw it under a different title.
It does have probably a couple of titles. I remember his other title, but I was impressed. I thought that was pretty good. I was better than I thought it was.
Is that like AKA The Witching or something? Or am I thinking of something else?
That's the one with Orson Welles, isn't it? Where it's like a recut. I don't know.
I can't.
It might be The Witching might be more than one movie.
If I've seen Burned at the Stake, it's definitely been a long, long time.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty wild. But he did another one too that's like an old one, like black and white, but it's not like a big bug movie. It's more like a psychological one. I feel like Film Masters put it out and I watched it. It was kind of interesting for Bird Eye Gordon. Cannot remember what the fuck it was.
Was that is it Tormented? Is that what that thing is called?
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
it. That's a weird one. But I mean, Food of the Gods is a fun movie.
Well, and he did the best one is that damn the 70s one he did, the Mad Bomber with Chuck
I've never
Connors
seen that
and
one.
oh my
I have
God,
the
are you
Blu-ray,
kidding me?
right? That's the Sever
Yeah,
put that out, right?
yeah. I had
Yeah.
the old Code Red one. I think I have the Severn one too. That's Chuck Connors and Neville Brand. That movie is fucking
Who's the
wild.
villain? Because they both are fucking crazy.
They're both villains. Dude, it's
I was like,
fucking
who's the villain?
it's so
Dude.
good. I can't believe you haven't. Oh, dude.
Dude, I don't know who's crazier. Like I know people think Chuck Connors has got like that good natured, like all American approach to him, but then when he goes fucking nuts, he's always nuts. Like he's not really good in anything.
Right.
He's always, I mean, he's a good actor, but he's always villainous. Like he's
Well,
just scary.
I always knew Chuck Connors from growing up watching the Werewolf TV show. You know, he was Scorzini in that. He was like the evil werewolf that turned the werewolf guy into a werewolf. So that was like my reference point for Chuck Connors. And then I would see him in things like you know, because I grew up watching shitty cable. So I saw him
Summer
in,
Camp
you know,
Nightmare.
well, I definitely saw that. Skinheads was another one I remember him in by God, what the hell's the guy's name? Oh, Jesus.
Not
Graydon
Claudio
Clark.
Fragasso.
Graydon
Oh,
Clark.
'cause
Graydon Clark.
he's got one called Skinheads
right.
too.
Yeah, and
I
when
was like,
I
there's
first
no ways.
when David Gregory first told me he got Skinheads, I was so excited because I thought it was the Graydon Clark one, but it's not. You know, he's like, oh,
Yeah,
it's Claudio Fragasso. I'm
Fragasso.
like, fuck. Like, who wants that? Who wants Italian Skinheads?
They don't even know what skinheads are. They were Nazis themselves half the time. I'm just kidding. But
yeah, definitely Mad Bomber. You 100% need to watch.
I have it. I have it. I mean, I like character actors like that, old crazy actors that are fucking seem dangerous.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's so
No,
good.
I just watched Soylent Green for the first time, and Chuck Connors was bad guy in that movie. Like I'm telling you,
I don't even remember him in that. That's funny. Yeah,
no,
it's been a minute
him and
since I sat
fucking
down
Chuck
and watched
Heston fight.
it.
Like
Yeah,
they're like almost like evil versions of each other.
I
Like
was
Chuck
gonna say, yeah,
Connors is like the evil version of Chuck Heston.
That's another one I don't think I've watched since probably since I was young. Like I know I've rewatched like the Omega Man more recently, but
I love that movie.
Yeah, there was a couple of those that, you know, a lot of those bigger sci-fi movies used to like play TV a lot and stuff when I was a kid. And I remember definitely seeing Soylent Green then. And it's one of those kind of things where, I mean, the you know, the punchline to it's become such a pop culture thing.
joke,
Or at least,
yeah.
at least it was for a while.
Well, the SNL
yeah.
thing too.
But yeah, I never got around to. I just never got around to rewatching it. I like never bought it on disc. You know, now I guess now there's that 4K coming out.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
maybe
it looked pretty good. This one,
right?
Yeah. So I mean, this movie was fun. It was one that it's like a checklist. I felt I'm glad I watched it, but like I'm not gonna give it a wholehearted recommend.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, it kind of, you know, it was perfectly fine time waster. I wasn't like hate watching it. But yeah, there wasn't really a lot to it that I say would bring me back to it.
I mean, it's no Evil Dead Burns, but no, I'm not getting into that. I'm gonna review that this week.
Yeah, have fun with that.
Yeah, no shit. Everybody loves it. I feel like I'm a villain.
Yeah, it's the movie's a fucking mess.
Mess. All right. Thanks again. You got anything to plug?
No.
All right. Bye.
See ya.
All right, let's get to these comments and concerns. First up is Ken Coakley. I saw Falling Down at my local theater as a midnight showing about 10 years ago. I was aware of Joel Schumacher because he made some films that I have seen before, such as DC Cab, which I like, featuring young Bill Maher. Lost Boys, which I liked as well, and Flatliners, which I liked because I'm interested in the subject of the afterlife, life after death. The one movie that he made in 1986 was St. Elmo's Fire. I didn't like that one because it was 2 hours of yuppies bitching about how miserable their lives are. Falling Down was certainly his fastest-paced film. The cast was full of familiar faces. Michael Paul Chan, who played the Korean store owner, worked with Schumacher again in Batman Forever, as well as Batman and Robin, as well as Rapid Fire with fellow Falling Down cast member Raymond J. Barry, who starred in the 2002 docudrama called Interview with an Assassin. That's the one I was thinking about when I said he turns in a great performance in that, in which he plays a retired CIA agent who claims to have killed JFK. It was a really good movie. Frederick Forrest has manic energy as the white supremacist douchebag. I liked him in Apocalypse Now as well, and It's Alive 2, It Lives Again. On the episode of Joe Rogan's podcast, conservative pundit Gavin Massones, I don't know who he is, showed up dressed like Michael Douglas' character in the film. It wasn't even Halloween. He wore a shirt sleeve, button shirt, a striped tie, a pocket protector, and a briefcase with the same contents. On a different subject, I watched an interesting horror film last night called Backrooms. It was an accidental rental. Hey, that rhymes. I used my phone's Roku app and my sensitive phone screen paid $20 for a rental that I couldn't afford. It was still pretty good, though. I couldn't make heads or tails of the film in the beginning. There's a POV shot of an old computer on a table with audio cassettes and floppy disks lying around. I thought it was either a period piece or a setup for a hipster party. Actually, it was none of the above. The story is about a young man who manages a furniture store called Ottoman Empire, which I thought was a clever name for a furniture store. He has to sleep in the store after his wife kicked him out. He discovers some secret rooms. That's all I can give away for now. Yeah, it's a really big hit. I covered it on here. It's a bizarre film for sure. Beyond Sour Ground. Falling Down was not on my radar until Arrow announced it, but I'm really excited to check that one out. And yes, the film Code Red released on DVD is Zebra Force, which is an interesting film in its own right. But like you, I always bought it on the first thinking it was the alternate title for Zebra Killers / Combat Cops. I'm hoping one of these days both Zebra Killer and Abby get physical media releases. I don't know about Abby, but we can hope. Record Mirage. Thanks for the kind words. Was fun to make. That's Arnie Venema. Thank you for making it. The special features on Killers on Wheels. Jesus Padayo, movie fan and hot guy in tank top. Fan. Thank you, Nick from Flanders. The Fourth Man. I did not know what I was about to watch way back. When this popped up one night on my old color TV, was quite the introduction to Paul Verhoeven, I tell you. I do love The Hounds of Baskerville, both the original story and its many adaptations. Allegedly, the makers of Scooby-Doo were inspired by this faux ghost story, and Christoph Gahn's Brotherhood of the Wolf owes a lot to the Hammer adaptation, of course. Questions? What's your favorite Baskerville adaptation? I like the Hammer one, but I haven't seen them all, so who knows? Please name your favorite and least favorite Paul Verhoeven movies. You know what? I don't think... Hollow Man is probably my least favorite Paul Verhoeven movie. My favorite would be RoboCop. And I love Total Recall, and RoboCop. But it's those two for sure. I know it's a cop-out answer. Starship Troopers is good. Basic Instinct I remember liking, and I really like Fourth Man. So, I mean, most of the movies I've seen by him are good. Hollow Man is by far the worst. I've never seen Soldier Born, so I haven't seen his earliest stuff. 3, would you accept an inheritance if you suspected it came from a hound from hell? Are there any stipulations in the inheritance? Otherwise, I'll take it. Till the next show, God willing, I had the day off. Belgium's national holiday today, and it was great. Well, happy holiday. Death Rattle 6376. What website do you buy most of your movies from? My fave is Orbit DVD. I do buy from Orbit DVD. I do buy from Deep Discount occasionally. I unfortunately do Amazon, but I like Orbit a lot. I do Diabolic. I do Grindhouse occasionally. I do a lot from direct from the seller, the companies. Like if Barnes & Noble has a sale, I'll get Barnes & Noble. If Kino has a sale, I do Kino and Severin and Vinegar Syndrome. So direct a lot, but I do like Orbit. They're good stuff. Diabolic is good as well. So yeah, those companies. Elk Vomit. Watch Fearless Dragons tonight. Liu Kar-yan and Philip Ko are in an absolute top form in it. Not going to lie, there's a lot of really bad comedy in, but the fights, good gravy. The fights make up for it in spades. Eternal Shaw Brothers bad guy Johnny Wang Lu Wei is also in this, and bro, all I gotta say is that the final fight in this movie is legit a top 5 end fight scene in all martial arts cinema. Jeez. And I saw that Bruce Holecheck agreed. What the flick, though, I love Falling Down. I'm not sure if it's my favorite movie of his movies, but I do like it more than Lost Boys. Just not sure if I like it more than 8mm. Forgot Joel did 8mm. This is a Scandinavian name. Hivike Kristado. I'm hard to say, man. Sorry. New Wave Video is awesome. I love Rubber's Lover. I should have ordered Visitor Q from them, but I got the Radiance one instead. I need Killers on Wheels. Been getting into the director lately. Yeah, he's a great director. Bewitched and Boxer's Omen. Mr. Gzation. Hello, beautiful. Thanks for making my Tuesday a good day. Thank you, Mike Moore. I love Grand Slam. Was a blind buy when I got that Kino release and thought it was awesome. Should revisit it soon. Way up, dude. Mrparka, the man of the movies. Thank you, Amy D. Haven't seen that version of The Hound of Baskervilles. The one that is ingrained in my memory is the Jeremy Brett version. Was a TV show, but I remember it being atmospheric. I think it's always pretty good. I don't know if I've seen that one, but yeah. Thanks, guys, for watching. Let's get into this update. All right, guys. Let's get into this update. First up. We're doing the Vinegar Syndrome order that came through. We have Abel Ferrera's Body Snatchers. This is the third rendition of the Body Snatchers movie, of course, 56, 78, and then I believe this was 92 or 93. Actually has a lot of heavy hitters. I mean, a good character actor cast, but heavy hitters behind the screen. I mean, you got Stuart Gordon and Larry Cohen both worked on the script, and Abel Ferrera directing. This is a pretty good movie. I think it's actually, I love all the first 3 Body Snatcher movies, and I think even Invasion's not too horrible. It's got a worse reputation than it deserves. And then we have Lady in White. What is this director's name? Frank Lalogias, who also did Fear No Evil from 81, which I don't love. And this one I hear good things about, so I'm definitely worth to check it out in 4K in this deluxe edition. So finally going to see that one. I probably bought it 3 or 4 times in my life. And then here we have a slasher, Night School from Vinegar Syndrome. Nice to see them getting the Warner Brothers stuff. I love Night School. I think it's a really good, classy, kind of sleazy slasher. That's a great combination. I know it's a weird combination, but it does exist. Yeah, got Rachel Ward in there, Motorcycle Nickel Helmet Killer, similar to What Have You Done to Our Daughters, or Welcome to Spring Break, all that kind of stuff like that, or Nail Gun Massacre, all the classics here. Next up is Faces of Death Part 2, VSA here. Now, I like the first Faces of Death from memory. It's been a while, but I've rewatched Part 2, or watched Part 2 for 81, I think, and man, this is a horrible movie, but I did pick this up in 4K, and it does have like the original cut on here in standard def, and I think the original cut's supposed to be much better than the cut we got, because I think it's a pretty poor film, to be honest. Next up, we have another VSA, The Executioner Part 2, plus Hell Riders. Very cool stuff here. Yeah, Executioner Part 2. I don't think I've ever seen this one. So, they did put this out years ago, I believe, on a DVD. And maybe it was a limited Blu-ray. I do believe that. So, yeah, cool stuff. Then we have The Hand of Night, and this one looked interesting. I think it's like a classic kind of horror film from what I gathered. Not too familiar with this one. Well, the slipcover's pretty cool as well. Then we got one from Something Weird. We got the ultimate Degenerate, as well as 1,000 Pleasures. So yeah, double feature here. Looks like a nice deluxe edition. Don't know too much about these, but they kind of look like 60s weirdo kind of horror erotic stuff. Then we got Reviver 3. I have not been watching these as I would like to, but yes, interesting stuff nonetheless. Then we got Flesh Eaters from Outer Space from Saturn's Core. That looks like a lot of fun. I'm sure it's a wild SOV. Look at that. Monsters and babes, right? Then next up, we have a bunch of nudity on this cover. Of course, it's the Delirium ones. And we got Barbed Wire Dolls by Jess Franco. Of course, that means Lena Romay has to be naked all over the cover. That's just goes without saying. Yeah. Gotta love Jess Franco. And last, not part of the Vinegar Syndrome order, it was a good price, The Godfather Part 2 in 4K. I've actually never seen The Godfather Part 2. I've seen the first one a couple times, and I was just like, when I finally watch this, which probably will be sooner than later, I'm going to watch it in 4K. I know it's a huge blind spot. People are probably going nuts. I've seen all these crazy movies, but I haven't seen Godfather Part 2. But let's get back to the video, guys. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching, and as always, have a good one.